Part 153. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 1521. Chapter 1521, Find him in the game. Han Chi, Mo Xiongnuan had already recognized the special voice. Han Chi touched his chin, which seemed to be red. Mo Xiongnuan apologized quickly, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. How are you? She subconsciously reached out her hand, but Han Chi dodged it. Mo Xiongnuan didn't care about these small details. She only knew that she had caused trouble for Han Chi again. Just now, Mo Xiongnuan handed over the milk tea and said, you can drink it if you don't want me to drink it. Han Chi reached out to take it unceremoniously, inserted the straw into Mo Xiongnuan's mouth without hesitation, and stuffed it into Mo Xiongnuan's mouth. Drink up. Mo Xiongnuan almost choked when he was given a sip of milk tea without warning. Cough, cough, cough. Seeing how she couldn't react when she was bullied, Han Chi finally stopped and said, why are you so stupid? You're the stupid one. You are a little fool. Mo Xiongnuan didn't know how to curse, and it didn't seem threatening to follow Han Chi. She thought about it and finally said, I want to complain to my brother and sister. Han Chi was almost unhappy. During the few days Han Chi stayed at Yejia, Han Xingyi came to visit several times. Twice, Mo Xiongnuan heard Han Xingyi calling him to go home, but Han Chi refused and even said, you can lock him up if you can, I'm going back, I'll just run away when I get the chance. Such rebellious words have a great impact on a well-behaved and obedient child like Mo Xiongnuan, but she doesn't understand why Han Chi is so repulsive to Han Xingyi, even though Han Xingyi is obviously very good to him. They say she is a loving mother and a strict father, but Han Xingyi never beat or scolded Han Chi even when he was angry. It can be said that he is really doted on. On this day, Mo Xiongnuan passed by Han Chi's room and found that his door was not closed. She wanted to close the door for him, but accidentally saw Han Chi playing games through the crack of the door. Mo Xiongnuan didn't know about that game originally, but it could be seen that Han Chi often played it, so she became familiar with it. After finishing his homework, Mo Xiongnuan turned on the computer and unconsciously clicked on the game to download. She is not very good at playing games. She doesn't even understand the basic operations after logging into the game. The system asked her to choose the server to log into, and she didn't know whether these games were interoperable. Because she didn't understand, she simply chose the main server recommended by the system. A person who has never played an online game is completely confused when she enters the game. She follows the instructions to complete the tasks, and she can't even find the location of the tasks. Nuan. Yezhiruo came to find her, and she quickly pressed the shortcut key to switch to the desktop. Nuan, the album we bought last time when we went shopping seems to be here with you, please give it to me. Okay. Mo Xiongnuan thought for a moment and was able to find the exact location of the album, then handed it to Yezhiruo. That's it, thanks. After getting the album, Yezhiruo confirmed that it was correct, waved to her and went out. Mo Xiongnuan saw the closed door and opened the game page after a while, feeling a little guilty. I'm going to die. She somehow entered the area with the red monster and was beaten to a pulp. Suddenly, a blue skill special effect fell next to her, and the surrounding red monsters were instantly killed, lying on the ground, turned gray, and then disappeared. Mo Xiongnuan looked at the game interface and was quite surprised. Then she heard a ding sound from the game system, and someone secretly chatted with her, are you a noob? Mo Xiongnuan reached out and typed a few words. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 1522. Chapter 1522. Do you want to drive me away? I just played this game. If she hadn't clicked on the chat channel out of curiosity and happened to stay on the secret chat page, she wouldn't even know that someone else had sent her a message. Just after Mo Xiangnuen typed these words, a message popped up on the game interface: Fen 11 wants to accept you as his direct disciple. Of course there are options for apprenticeship and rejection below. Mo Xiangnuen nodded and became a disciple as soon as his mind was empty. The master and apprentice were automatically added as friends. Before Mo Xiangnuen could react, the game page popped up again to form a team. It turns out that it was the new master Fen 11 who used his skills to kill the red monster just now. Mo Xiangnuen shivered when he looked at Fen 11, who had tens of thousands more blood than hers. She doesn't even know how to operate a level 5 trumpet. Fortunately, the master was patient and led her to complete the task. With the guidance of the newcomer's mission and the detailed explanation from the master, Mo Xiangnuen finally reached level 10 after stumbling on the way to upgrade. Kei Fengzi told her, "Well, there are still more than 20 levels left, it's almost over." Mo Xiangnuen shook his hand and sent a pig head emoji. She felt that this was very rude to master, so she quickly typed an apology: "I'm sorry, I sent the wrong expression." There are a lot of people saying dirty things in the game, and the pig head emoticon is a common sight in chats. Nowadays, there are still people who specifically apologize because of an expression. It seems that this novice is a bit interesting. Fen 11 chatted with her secretly: "Xiangnuan, you don't need to apologize for this kind of thing." What Fen 11 called was not Mo Xiangnuen's real name, but Mo Xiangnuen named her game ID Smile Xiangnuen, and others would only think it was a nice word. Mo Xiangnuen calculated the time it took for her to go from level 0 to level 10. She originally thought that the same amount of time would allow her to level up to another level 10, but the reality told her, haha. The higher the subsequent levels, the greater the intensity of the upgrade. She definitely couldn't finish it in one day. "Thank you, Master, I'm going offline." "Well, go ahead." Mo Xiangnuen never thought that one day he would like to play games. It is not the same as some internet-addicted teenagers are addicted to esports. She will still finish her own things before playing, but now she plays games. She doesn't play for long every day, and she hasn't reached the full level in a week, but her master told her, the full level is the beginning of this game. Mo Xiangnuen sighed. After playing for a week, she finally learned that game accounts in different regions cannot meet. Later she went to see him quietly, but Han Chi was not convinced by her. Sigh, she was heartbroken, she thought she would meet Han Chi. However, she already likes this game. The end of the week means that Han Chi stayed at Yejia for another week. When he was in the piano room, Mo Xiangnuen couldn't help but ask him, "Han Chi, when do you plan to go back?" Han Chi frowned. "What? You don't want to see me and want to drive me away?" Mo Xiangnuen shook his head quickly. No, don't get me wrong." She kept explaining to Han Chi, "I don't hate you and I didn't drive you away. I heard what Uncle Han said to you before. It's not good if you don't study like this." Han Chi smiled. Mo Xiangnuen's answer was what he expected. This was the standard for a good student. He didn't want to go home, and he was not interested in studying more, but he suddenly felt that Mo Xiangnuen was quite funny, and her reaction when teasing her was particularly cute, which made him want to laugh. "You smiled, maybe you were happy, right? It's easy for me to learn." What? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1523. Chapter 1523, Cuteness and Arrogance. Aren't you a top student? Then you can teach me. What? I can't do it, Amo Xiongnuan refused without thinking. Han Chi shrugged, "Look, you don't let me learn." With one sentence, all the blame was thrown at her, and Amo Xiongnuan stood up and said, "I didn't let you learn, but I am only in the first grade of junior high school, how can I teach you?" Han Chi snorted, "What a coincidence, I'm also in the first grade of junior high school." He is 1 year younger than Amo Xiongnuan, and he studied a year later due to poor academic performance, so he happens to be in the same grade as Amo Xiongnuan. Amo Xiongnuan. At this point, there seems to be no room for rejection. Looking at the natural expression on Han Chi's face, she couldn't help but wonder, "Why aren't you shy?" "Don't worry, I won't be polite to you." Amo Xiongnuan. "Don't worry, she can rest assured. I'm really convinced by you." In this way, Amo Xiongnuan vaguely agreed to help Han Chi with tutoring, and actually knocked on the door with his textbook at night. What a coincidence, Han Chi is playing games again. Amo Xiongnuan glanced at him for a few times and suddenly asked him, "How long did it take you to reach the maximum level?" Han Chi replied casually, "I forgot." Amo Xiongnuan sighed, "I've been playing for a week and haven't reached the level yet." "Oh, are you playing too?" I just downloaded it, it's quite fun." "Which server?" That's not right. I'm here to make up lessons with you, not to play games. Please clean up quickly." Amo Xiongnuan suddenly reacted and was almost led astray by Han Chi's game. Han Chi cooperated and exited the game obediently. Amo Xiongnuan placed the book in front of him. "Do you want to learn English or mathematics or something else?" Han Chi grabbed a corner of the book and flipped it up, and said with disgust, "Why are there so many? For a poor student, not to mention thick books, even a classical Chinese article, an English reading comprehension, and a few math problems will give him a headache." Han Chi refused to choose, so Amo Xiongnuan randomly selected mathematics. But she had no experience in teaching and really didn't know where to start, so she had to ask Han Chi, "What questions can't you do?" Han Chi answered quickly, "Now, it's probably because 9 of the 10 apertures have been opened." Amo Xiongnuan pointed out in surprise, "That doesn't mean you know nothing." Amo Xiongnuan held his forehead. She started to explain the first topic to Han Chi, but Han Chi always got distracted while listening, or stared at her, or played with his pen. In short, he couldn't concentrate. Amo Xiongnuan called him several times, and finally reached out and grabbed his palm, pressing it on the table, "Don't move. Finally, I have a little teacher style." The first day of tutoring was not smooth, it was a little bad. Han Chi was like a problem that Amo Xiongnuan encountered, which aroused her fighting spirit. Since Han Chi doesn't like studying, she just wants him to learn knowledge more. Since then, Amo Xiongnuan knocked on Han Chi's door every day with his textbook. Han Chi regretted it. "I regretted very much that I asked Amo Xiongnuan to make up lessons on a whim. I didn't expect that this guy who looked weak and easy to bully had such strong resilience and willpower. Amo Xiongnuan, I don't want to learn anymore." "No, we can't give up halfway." Nuan, please spare me." "No, we can't give up halfway." "Sister Nuan, can I call you sister?" "No, we can't give up halfway." "Can you say something else?" "Oh, let's do this question." Han Chi. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1524. Chapter 1524. Let's keep Han Chi. Han Chi finally knows what it means to shoot oneself in the foot. Amo Xiongnuan, you have nothing to do. I don't need your teaching. That day, Amo Xiongnuan was kicked out by Han Chi as soon as he entered the house. Han Chi made it clear, people from Amo Xiongnuan can enter, but books cannot. The two of them got into a fight for no apparent reason. The two stood at the door, one outside and the other inside, still arguing. Mo Xiong Nguyen said, "No, what you have started cannot be abandoned halfway." Han Chi raised his hands to block the door. "Are you bothered? If you don't let me bring the book in, I will. Oh, if I don't let you, what will you do?" Han Chi is so arrogant. Mo Xiong Nguyen can only overcome strength with softness. She looked left and right, and finally sat down at the door, vowing, "If you don't study, I will sit here with my book and wait for you until you are willing to study." Han Chi was startled. "Damn, that's too cruel." Han Chi has traveled around with his father since he was a child, but the girls in the circle he came into contact with were all more reserved. If this action were left to Yezhiruo and Nangongyu, they would definitely not do it. But Mo Xiong Nguyen not only did it, he did it very naturally and didn't care about anything else at all. Mo Xiong Nguyen, don't be so dishonest. Obviously you only talk but don't do anything. This is not good. What do you want? Mo Xiong Nguyen raised the book in his hand and smiled naturally. "I'll help you with your tutoring." Han Chi acted very determined, but in the end he still gave in. "How much do you want me to tutor?" "Just wait until you can complete the test questions independently." Han Chi almost couldn't help but tell her that that was impossible. Mo Xiong Nguyen happily placed the textbook on Han Chi's desk, and took the trouble to explain to him the examples he had studied for 3 days. Han Xingyi, who came to visit his son, happened to see the scene and was almost moved to tears. The brat in his family studied math problems seriously at night for the first time in his life. Han Xingyi couldn't bear to disturb him, so he came and left secretly. But before he left, he was caught by Ye Weiwei. "Han Xingyi, when do you plan to take your son back?" "No, can you bear to drive him away?" "Of course not. I think it's good for my Chi to be let into your home. I feel relieved, so I'll let him stay for a little longer." "I see it. Is there anyone who is such a father? Just throw your son into someone else's house. Although, she is not someone else. Actually, I ask you this because I want to tell you something." Speaking. "I don't know what happened to Nuan Nuan and Chi-er. Recently Nuan Nuan has been helping Chi-er make up classes. I'm thinking that Chi-er doesn't want to go back, but I can't let him do nothing every day. Since he has fun with Nuan Nuan, why not send him to Nuan Nuan's class for the time being?" Ye Weiwei was really worried about Han Chi. Even though he is not her biological child, it is the only bloodline of her good friend Xiaoziun, and she cares about it very much. Han Xingyi thought about it seriously and nodded in agreement. "I have no objection. I will deal with it tomorrow." "Okay." In this way, Han Chi's miserable life was decided so simply. At this moment, Han Chi doesn't know that he is even tricking Mo Xiong Nguyen into playing games together. "Mo Xiong Nguyen, let me help you level up. You will reach full level soon." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1525. Chapter 1525. Han Chi was despised by Master Nuan Nuan. "I don't want your help." "Tisk, you can't even use Qinggong. Are you a pig?" "Han Chi, you are very annoying, you are always noisy to me." Okay, let me open an account and take you." Han Chi didn't know where he went to borrow an account that was on the same server as Mo Xiong Nguyen to log in, but when he went online, he found that Mo Xiong Nguyen had already formed a team with someone. Feng 11 was typing in the team, and I took the ID of the account played by Han Chi and asked, "Is this a relative or friend?" Mo Xiong Nguyen knows that relatives and friends are friends who play well in the game. She and Han Chi know each other in real life and can be regarded as relatives and friends. Mo Xiong Nguyen said twice. Here Han Chi went directly to Mo Xiong Nguyen with his notebook to ask who Feng 11 was. Mo Xiong Nguyen answered honestly, "I worshipped my master when I first started playing that game. Furthermore, This master is quite nice and helps her level up every time. Han Chi seemed a little dissatisfied after hearing this. He put the notebook next to her and sat down next to her. What do you want, master? I'll teach you how to play. No need, I'm going to level up soon. Master said there's no need to do any tasks, just pass on the skills. Hearing this, Han Chi suddenly felt a sense of being abandoned. He immediately called master and apprentice, but found that the number he borrowed was still a disciple and could not accept apprentices. Han Chi's mouth twitched, pretending that he had never done such a stupid thing before. Mo Xiongnuan has finally reached the maximum level. Han Chi was excited to take her to fight, but he ignored that Mo Xiongnuan's full level equipment was too small and that someone's operation method was, no skill. Feng 11 said that he would take Mo Xiongnuan to fight a dungeon, which was easy to pass, but he needed to understand the mechanism. Han Chi is very good at fighting, but once he entered the dungeon, he discovered that he couldn't defeat the red-named monster, and was beaten to death by the red-named monster. Mo Xiongnuan couldn't help laughing. Feng 11 asked, "Did your relatives and friends just play too?" This sentence is tantamount to suspecting that Han Chi is a novice and a newbie. It is too lethal for Han Chi, who is invincible and powerful in fighting. He stubbornly faced the enemy, but was still beaten to death by the mob. It's so embarrassing. Mo Xiongnuan, on the other hand, followed Feng 11's instructions and successfully reached the red boss. Han Chi, hurry up, I'm going to send you. Mo Xiongnuan poked the hand of Han Chi, who was sitting next to him. Han Chi had no choice but to follow what Feng 11 typed in the team. Han Chi is no different from a newbie after entering the dungeon. The only difference is probably that he knows how to output skills. The first boss passed smoothly, but the second boss stumped them again. Fengzi directly sent a series of numbers and asked them to come to YY. Mo Xiongnuan asked Han Chi in confusion, "What is YY?" Han Chi grinned. It felt good to be helped by Mo Xiongnuan. Fengzi, who often plays games, of course has YY. He did not open the microphone after logging in. When Fengzi Kaimei asked them, "Can you hear it?" Han Chi deducted one in the team channel to express his affirmation. Han Chi didn't turn on the microphone, so Mo Xiongnuan naturally didn't know to ask him to turn on the microphone, so he just listened. However, when Mo Xiongnuan heard the voice, he couldn't help but praise, "Wow, this voice sounds good." Han Chi. Little guy, what do you mean? I'm sitting next to you, and you actually praise someone else's beautiful voice. But his voice is really nice. Let me tell you, most of the men with nice voices in the game are fat, short, and greasy. Maybe they even use a voice changer. In short, he described Fengzi's image in a very embarrassing way. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1526. Chapter 1526. Take your hand away. But you are not. What do you mean? Look, you also play games, but you are tall, handsome, and have such a nice voice. Han Chi's heart trembled when he heard this. This stupid girl said she did it on purpose, right? So good at coaxing people? Ah, he was beaten to death again. Just now, the two of them were distracted and were defeated by the boss. Feng 11 was typing in the team and asked why only one person came. Mo Xiongnuan was about to type an introduction when Han Chi suddenly turned on the microphone and said, "She is next to me." After saying this sentence, he closed the microphone in a hurry. For people across a computer screen, this polite sentence is too easy to make people think. Mo Xiongnuan didn't think much about it at all. She didn't think there was anything wrong with this sentence at all. Things seemed to go much smoother after that. After finishing this dungeon, it was time to log off and get ready for bed. The portraits of Han Chi and Mo Xiongnuan turned gray at the same time. Mo Xiongnuan didn't take these things to heart. She only knew that she had reached the maximum level today. Quite happy. Happily, I was waiting for the news that Han Chi was about to go to their school. Han Xingyi deliberately inserted Han Chi into Mo Xiongnuan's class, but their seats were far apart. This distance made Han Chi not happy. Mo Xiongnuan returned to normal after being surprised, but the girls in their class were a little abnormal and full of more benefits than usual, especially those who loved Han Chi. I don't know what method Han Chi used to switch seats with Mo Xiongnuan's deskmate after 2 classes, and successfully rooted by Mo Xiongnuan's side. How? He's not my dad yet. He didn't say anything, he just tricked me into getting into the car and brought me here today and threw me and my transfer materials at the school gate. Mo Xiongnuan giggled after hearing this. After Han Chi's description, she could even imagine an abstract picture in her mind. Mo Xiongnuan, please be more careful. The appearance of Han Chi has simply improved the overall appearance level of the class a lot. Although they are junior high school students, this does not prevent them from budding in love. After all, they are an emotionally hazy adolescence. Han Chi is very popular when he comes to school, although he is often called out by the teacher for not paying attention in class. But the classmates still like him very much. It took Mo Xiongnuan a month to build a good relationship with Han Chi, but it only took 3 days. It can be said that I am jealous. Han Chi, you are so awesome, you play well with everyone. Mo Xiongnuan looked enviously. Han Chi put his hand on her shoulder and told her, don't worry, I only want to play well with you. Brother Chi, let's play basketball on the playground. Okay, coming right away. As soon as he heard about the basketball appointment, Han Chi immediately took his hand off Mo Xiongnuan's shoulder and followed the group without looking back. Mo Xiongnuan's mouth twitched. Han Chi's words really have no credibility. Han Chi was thriving here, but when it came to the exam, he wanted to slump in his seat and hand in a blank paper. When the exam results came in, Han Chi was at the bottom, and he was still at the bottom of the whole grade. But Mo Xiongnuan is different. She ranks in the top 3 in exams and is always a good child, praised by the teacher. The teacher talked to Mo Xiongnuan, hoping that Mo Xiongnuan could help Han Chi more. Mo Xiongnuan nodded in agreement, but Han Chi himself was too lazy to do so. When he came back from school and wanted to play games, Mo Xiongnuan directly closed his notebook. Mo Xiongnuan reminded, Han Chi, you can't play games anymore, your grades need to be improved. Hands away. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1527. Chapter 1527. Fill in the blank question. Torturing X feels good for a while, chasing X at the crematorium. Of course Mo Xiongnuan refused. Han Chi took her hand away from the notebook with force. Let go, Mo Xiongnuan. Mo Xiongnuan. This is the new name given to her by this unreliable guy Han Chi. Han Chi refused to admit that she was older than him, and he didn't call her Nuanuan as affectionately as others, and he couldn't take advantage of her and call her sister in front of the Ye family. So, to sum up, Han Chi came up with a new nickname, Mo Xiongnuan. After hearing some things too many times, I don't bother to refute them. But Mo Xiongnuan's determination will not be changed easily. Furthermore, she still remembered the words that Yewei specifically said to her last night. Yewei hoped that she could help Han Chi within her ability, because Han Chi was really a poor child. Han Chi, it's useless what you say this time. Leave me alone. You have to study with me. If you don't want to learn, get out of here. Don't be like this. Mathematics is actually not difficult as long as you find the right way, you can learn it. Are you annoyed? Whether you teach or not, I'm annoyed by everything you listen to. Do I have anything to do with you? It's my business if I don't study well. You live in my house now, I should help you. Okay, I can just pack up and go outside to play, right? It seemed like Han Chi was really about to leave with his notebook in hand. Mo Xiongnuan's repeated persuasion was of no use. She was a little angry, but more of aggrieved. You don't have to go, I won't teach you anything. Mo Xiongnuan stamped his feet, finally willing to let him go. Mo Xiongnuan turned around and left. Han Chi stared at her back, as if he accidentally saw her raising her hand to wipe her tears when she was turning around. The room was empty after Mo Xiongnuan left. Even if he held his laptop and opened a game page, he couldn't play anymore. He felt empty in his heart. Ye Xiao went online and secretly chatted with Han Chi to play a game. After forming a team, he queued up a few games, but the result was a losing streak. Ye Xiao was furious. Han Chi, you're not in good shape, I've already lost a lot of points. I'm going to lose a rank soon. I'm not in the mood to fight tonight, sorry. Han Chi left the group directly after apologizing. An absent-minded person cannot even play games well. Han Chi wandered around the room and finally slammed the door and walked out. He walked to Kenmo Xiongnuan's room and knocked on the door, but got no response. He glanced at the time. He should not be sleeping at this time. Yezhiruo and Yechingfen went to the next city to participate in an event and competition, so no one came to interfere. Han Chi walked around the house and finally found that the lights in the piano room were like daylight. Han Chi quietly walked over and found Mo Xiongnuan sitting inside, holding the music score in his hand, as if he was reading it seriously. Han Chi didn't know whether he should go. Looking back on reflection, what I said tonight was indeed a bit excessive. Just when he was about to open the door and go in, he suddenly heard the music coming from the piano room. It was the request he made when he deliberately embarrassed Mo Xiongnuan that day. At that time, Mo Xiongnuan could not fully master it, but now he can actually get every note right, which can be said to be a rapid progress. After finishing the song, Han Chi finally couldn't help but knock on the door to attract her attention. Okay, I learned it so quickly. Mo Xiongnuan's talent is indeed great, even a proud man like Han Chi has to admit this. Mo Xiongnuan raised his head and glanced at him, then lowered his head to study the score. Han Chi finally knows what retribution is. It's a pleasure to torture X, chase X at the crematorium. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1528. Chapter 1528 Probably the little ancestor. He felt impatient when Mo Xiongnuan pestered him to study, but when Mo Xiongnuan ignored him, he felt even more uncomfortable. Mo Xiongnuan, are you really not talking to me anymore? Hey, I didn't do anything just now, did I? Mo Xiongnuan, you can't be so stingy, can you? No matter what Han Chi said, Mo Xiongnuan pretended not to have heard it. Just keep doing whatever you have to do. Han Chi was heartbroken. When he was at home, his elders pampered him, but he was just an arrogant and domineering second-generation rich man. There were not many people he could look up to or take seriously. Only now did he realize how it felt to be ignored. Mo Xiongnuan started to tidy up the things in the room. She walked here and there, and Han Chi followed her closely without saying anything. When Mo Xiongnuan reached out to grab something, he volunteered to grab it. I'll help you get it. Han Chi wanted to show his courtesy, but Mo Xiongnuan refused. While the two were fighting, they accidentally dropped a flute on the ground. Mo Xiongnuan showed distressed eyes at that time. Han Chi, you. I didn't mean it. At this moment, Han Chi finally realized that he had done something wrong. Mo Xiongnuan quickly picked up the place and checked it over and over again. He was relieved when he was sure that the place was not damaged. Mo Xiongnuan, please forgive me. I said the wrong thing before, isn't that okay? Amo Ziongyuan, please don't be like this. If you don't reply to me, I will feel uncomfortable holding it in. This was the first time that Amo Ziongyuan saw such a nagging Han Chi. She thought that Han Chi was dismissive of everything. Amo Ziongyuan didn't think much about it. She was just angry at first, but now that Han Chi keeps admitting her mistakes and apologizing, she has long since lost her anger. Of course I can't help it after my anger has subsided. Do you really know that you are wrong? Amo Ziongyuan's voice sounded a little milky. Han Chi finally let go of the big stone in his heart. Look, this girl doesn't even have the confidence to question the person who made the mistake. Now he can feel at ease. Amo Ziongyuan, don't be so stingy. I was just joking with you before. I'm not stingy. Then, can we consider this a reconciliation? Forget it, right? Amo Ziongyuan has lost his temper. The two quickly reconciled, and the first thing Amo Ziongyuan thought of was to check the time. She said, it's 8:30, we can still study for a while. Han Chi's legs went weak when he heard this. Can we not learn? No, you have to persist in what you do. Han Chi almost knelt down in front of Amo Ziongyuan. Hold on, he hates studying. But if refusing to study was equivalent to rejecting Amo Ziongyuan, then he would have to aggrieve himself again. Han Chi, don't you still want to learn? If you resist, no matter how others explain it, you won't be able to listen. Amo Ziongyuan was worried about what he was learning. Han Chi put his hands on his hips and nodded helplessly, study, 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 wherever you point me. He risked his life. It's just that coaxing words sounds nice, but actually taking action is difficult. As soon as the textbook was spread out, Han Chi felt his eyes blurred and his head dizzy. Look at the expressions of X and Y, they are actually. Before Amo Ziongyuan finished speaking, Han Chi yawned. Han Chi, can you be more serious? There's nothing I can do about the natural reaction. You continue. Han Chi stopped yawning, but his stomach suddenly growled again. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1529. Chapter 1529. What is your past? Amo Ziongyuan asked him, are you hungry? Han Chi nodded vigorously, I'm hungry, let's go eat. He wanted to use this to divert attention, but he didn't expect that Amo Ziongyuan was not easy to fool at all this time. She said, if you want to eat, learn this question. If you learn it, I will let you eat. Yezikin once told her not to be blindly good or blindly bad to a person, but to leave room for yourself in everything, and to know how to grasp people's hearts. Although the action was a bit complicated, she understood what Yezikin meant. So when Han Chi needs food, can he achieve what he wants by tempting him with food? Amo Ziongyuan felt that his mind was finally thinking about something. But her tricks were too weak and she couldn't defeat Han Chi, who was like a veteran. Han Chi feels quite strong when he is stubborn, but he also has another side, such as pretending to be pitiful. I'm hungry, Amo Ziongyuan, do you know that people can easily get sick if they are hungry? Can you bear to see me get sick? Then you will have to come to the hospital to see me. Think about the consequences for yourself. If Han Chi said this to Yezhiruo and Yeching Feng, they would definitely give him a sneer. But facing Amo Ziongyuan, these words were too offensive. Amo Ziongyuan also agreed with Han Chi's sensible words after hearing them, and even wavered in his thoughts about teaching. Han Chi was able to discern Amo Ziongyuan's weakness by observing her words and easily bluffing her. As expected, Amo Ziongyuan relaxed and said, okay, then you are allowed to eat some pastries to cushion your stomach. Han Chi nodded, done. The young master, who usually doesn't even go into the kitchen, is running diligently now and goes to bring the cakes himself. What flavor do you want? It will be all right. Isn't there any flavor you particularly like? Mo Xiang Nguyen shook his head and said with a smile, I like them all. For her, who has experienced poverty, everything she comes into contact with in life now is delicious food. Nothing to fault. To put it lightly, if I really gave you a taste that you reject, would you like it? I couldn't eat these things before, so for me, being able to eat such good things now is enough. I'm not picky. Did you? This is the first time Han Chi heard Mo Xiang Nguyen mention the past. He then remembered that Mo Xiang Nguyen had not always had such a strong backing and status. He had heard that Mo Xiang Nguyen had a difficult time when he was lost. How did you live before? Ah, are you curious about those things? My life is boring and you won't like to hear it. As long as you speak, I will listen. As long as you are willing to speak, I am willing to listen. It feels good to have someone willing to listen to you. Mo Xiang Nguyen took the pastry and bit it into bites, put it in his mouth, chewed it slowly, and swallowed it gracefully. These calm and slow movements are so natural. But she didn't say a word. That means she doesn't want to say it. Han Chi was quite smart and didn't ask further questions. You've eaten 5 pieces of cake, are you full? Not yet. Then how much more do you want to eat? Depend on mood. Mo Xiang Nguyen, doesn't it depend on food intake? Or was Han Chi deliberately stalling for time to eat so much and so slowly? Han Chi, I want to tell you something. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1530. Chapter 1530 Cheating. Han Chi, I want to tell you something. Say something quickly. That's it, What the hell? I just want to say that there is an exam tomorrow, and one of the questions is the type I taught you just now. At first glance, Han Chi had not yet reacted. He will understand after he filters what Mo Xiang Nguyen said in his mind. Han Chi looked at Mo Xiang Nguyen in surprise. Are you trying to help me cheat? Mo Xiang Nguyen blushed with embarrassment. It's not cheating, I just want to remind you. She also discovered it accidentally when she was helping the teacher in the office. She didn't intend to cheat with that, but her memory was so good that she memorized it at a glance. She had no intention of telling others these words, but when she saw Han Chi like that, she couldn't bear to push him. Moreover, she only said the reminder and did not tell Han Chi the data and results. This is not considered cheating, right? Mo Xiang Nguyen didn't dare to expose more after much deliberation. She had no choice but to remind, anyway, you should read and review carefully and try to do better in the exam. But Han Chi didn't understand her thoughts. Han Chi was very casual about test scores. What can I do if the test is so easy? Then the scores can't be used as food. Mo Xiang Nguyen looked up at him and said, but if you do well in the exam, others will be proud of you. Han Chi sneered and couldn't help asking, why should I spend time and energy to do well in the exam just to make others proud of me? This sentence was really depraved, but she actually felt that it made sense from Han Chi's perspective. Mo Xiang Nguyen still tried to persuade Han Chi in a formal way, Han Chi, you can't think like this. We should work harder and study hard. Knock on the blackboard and study hard. Han Chi shrugged. Judging from his casual appearance, he really didn't take the exam that other students took seriously. Mo Xiang Nguyen thought about it over and over, and finally threw out the temptation. If you can pass, I can take half an hour to rest during evening tutoring. After saying that, he felt that the intensity was not enough, so Mo Xiang Nguyen also added a sentence to poke at Han Chi's hobby, we can play together. Game. You can play games after half an hour's rest, which makes Han Chi, who is sleepwalking, very happy. He smiled and didn't say anything more, but Han Chi was already aroused for the next exam. It's just that his fighting spirit is somewhat different from what Mo Xiongnuan wants. Han Chi used to get low scores or turn in blank papers because he didn't care about those tests and scores, but when one day he needs to use these test scores to do something, he will do whatever it takes. On the day of the exam, Mo Xiongnuan was as nervous as ever, for fear of getting many questions wrong. Han Chi was still unable to answer as before, but this time he at least pretended to get something done in exchange for the agreement with Mo Xiongnuan. The test results came out and Han Chi really passed. Not only did he pass, but he also exceeded it by many points. It can even be said that this is the best result he has ever received in his life. Because Han Chi had just transferred here and others didn't know much about his past achievements, so they didn't suspect anything. The hanfu she was wearing matched her figure very well, perfect. Han Chi went to Mo Xiongnuan with the paper and said, Mo Xiongnuan, see if I meet your requirements this time. But Mo Xiongnuan was a little unhappy. End of this chapter.